Welcome to Blue Lightning Healing Meditations. This week we're picking up where we left off with Galactic Ashley, talking about light language, how it impacts our DNA, how it impacts the energy around us. Thanks. Hello, and welcome to Blue Lightning Healing Meditations. My name is Susie Parker Goins, and this is my podcast in which I talk about metaphysical topics that are catching my attention. You can find me on the web at bluelightninghealing.com. You can contact me at Susie at bluelightninghealing.com. Please like, comment, subscribe, favorite, hit the support button, share with your friends, share the love. Thanks.
Did originally start talking about DNA. So our DNA, it bundles a little bit. So it's kind of like when we have a torus field and our energy field. And I think they've done studies on this. When you are speaking to yourself in negative ways, you are having an effect on your DNA. So it becomes like the bundling, it gets all messed up. It's not nice and pretty and like this little torus field that like comes undone. But when you work with light language, it can rebundle that so that your DNA is like happy DNA, right? But I mean, like, it's like literally your DNA is tuned in to every thought that you are having in every moment. And on top of that, it also is your Akashic record. It also is your history. It also contains every single experience that you have ever had within it. This is how we have, oh, my shoulder hurts and I don't know why. And then you go to Susie and she tells you that somebody stabbed you in the left shoulder and it was some old mother wound when a brother was mad that you inherited the kingdom. And so you got stabbed in the left shoulder. And so you unpack that and that becomes your feminine wound that you're carrying in this lifetime that you need to deal with because you haven't dealt with it. So it's like, well, we're going to come up from our cellular structure and our DNA and you're going to feel it in your physical bodies so that you do something about it because this needs to be dealt with right now.
Okay, so light language, if I'm understanding right, you were talking about self-talk, and light language can help to reverse the effect that negative, I don't know if negative's the way, but you put, oh,
Well, I mean, okay, so you
I
can use
can't really,
light language and intend that when you use light language that it is helping you to shift whatever reason that you speak to yourself in this way. But I was just using self-talk as an
right,
example of how important the words and the way that we use ourselves the way that we use ourselves, the way that we speak to ourselves is, and how that has a dramatic effect on our DNA.
right,
But when we use light language, it's the polar opposite, and our DNA begins to bundle in this really beautiful way.
right.
And the reason why we care about our DNA is because we are shifting from carbon-based beings, and we are wanting to line our DNA with our light DNA and start the crystallization process. So some of us are incarnate with a lot of our DNA activated, but it has to be embodied. But the light DNA that's already activated is necessary that we're holding these frequencies here so that other people will be able to, will make it easier for them to activate a lot of their light DNA as well. And then those codes are needed when they're needed. I don't know how else to explain that other than we can't embody these really high levels of DNA activation because the earth, because we have a physical body, our physical body has to resonate with the earth that we are currently physically experiencing right now.
Yeah.
And if her vibration doesn't support us having a higher vibration, we can't exist here. So we can hold all of these light codes, and as soon as she's ready and has a frequency, then we can automatically embody them and move. But what's odd and funny, and not odd, but ironic about this is that we can't embody a higher I would just call them higher dimensional or timeline, because DNA is also related to timelines. I know we're going way off a topic here. But when we we can't embody higher codes until she's embodied higher codes.
Okay.
So it's like we're constantly like, she gets a whole bunch of downloads like through the solar flares and through all of these solar energies, and so do we. But it's like we have to keep putting them together like in tandem. And a
Okay.
lot of light workers and a lot of people that are here for that, because the more that we do, the more that she can go, so that we're sort of like on this little ladder of ascension together. But we couldn't just send a whole bunch of humans down here that are really basically angelic beings that can embody in that, because there is no supportive vibration or frequency emanating from her core that can support that, which is why we have all of these super high interdimensional beings that are holding like five dimensional or really high vibrational like light beings in the core of the earth,
Yeah.
but they're still like in a different dimensional version of that, right? So at
Yeah.
some point when we begin to make this shift, we won't be separate from them, even though they might still be living in inner earth and we might be topside. However that works, there will be fluidity between the two and there won't be that separation. But we need them here, like the Lemurians and stuff, to be down there with the dragons and stuff, because they're really holding the core of the heart of the earth open, because again, we're fixing all of these lovely histories that we have on this planet. So it's like complicated, but light language can help you with all of it. That was a total tangent. But light language is very connected to DNA. So people that are like, I want to activate my DNA, it can be really beneficial for you to work with light language, especially your light language, because it's your body knows your voice and responds to your voice. Your voice has more power than any other voice, right? This is why people want a system or a community or followers that are voiceless, right? Because when you realize that how powerful your voice is to your personal body, so much more beneficial. I would much rather go around and activate everybody in light language than have everybody come to me to receive an activation. Does that make sense? Because it's going to be way more empowering for you to use your light language on your personal healing, because your body, especially your physical body, is going to respond to that so much better.
To my own light language. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I totally get that.
It's coming from your voice.
Right.
Your body knows your voice.
Right. Okay. I get that part, that everyone's own light language is the most powerful for them because their energy, their frequency, that all that. You're talking about activation. How did, you said you'd rather not have people all come to you for an activation?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't mean
Explain that.
I don't mean a light language activation. You can all come to me for a light language activation, that's fine. But my point is I would rather activate your light language so that you can do tons of all of the activations and DNA activations on yourself, because that's going to be more not only empowering for you, but that's going to be more powerful for your physical body.
Okay.
To use your own voice frequency to bring in your light language for you. And so that's what I meant. Like, I would rather, like, if there's 100 people, I'd rather have them all in a room. We activate everybody's light language all at one time so that they can each individually work on their own path and what they need, and then activate themselves in the physical body, or whatever kind of activation or attunement that they need, they can bring it through themselves. So I would rather that than 100 different people coming to me.
Okay.
That's
okay. Good, because I was going to say, yeah, so activations. Yeah, let's look at activations. What is an activation? It feels to me like it's having an awareness of it.
And so we each have this very unique, awesome energy signature and all of these codes, and we have very, very complex fields of energy that are always kind of like moving. Mana agrees to the complexities.
She's got the complexity. Yeah.
And the way that we expand in consciousness and the way that we connect to our beings, our soul's guidance system. I'm just gonna say the beings, not necessarily our being, but it's through these multiple layers of
Okay.
energy fields that we have. So within our energy exists, for a lot of people, like these little dormant spaces, right? And those dormant spaces will sort of light up and come online under the influence of certain frequencies. So everybody does have a light language activation energy ball or field that's sitting there. Some people, before they incarnate, are like, I'm going to have my light language activated on such and such a date or thereabouts, which is why there will be stories of people that are like, I'm in the grocery store, and then all of a sudden I felt this energy, and then boosh, and then they're like light languaging up a storm. They don't even know what it is. They think they're going crazy, and then they're like, what just happened? And so, because this was sort of all divine timing and divine order, it just so happens that they see me the next day or somebody else, or they're in a bookstore and they see some book on this, so like it's all okay. So to me, an activation is like a time release capsule that is in your structure somewhere, and it just needs a key code or a key to open it. So I always tell people whenever I'm doing activations, whether it's light language or other, that the intention is always that even if I open the door or I unlock the door, that it doesn't open until that person is ready, which is why sometimes somebody can come and be like, maybe they felt something, but then they don't actually have the change, or they don't like it doesn't necessarily work. But then a year later, all of a sudden it works, because activations need integration. And if you're not at a place in your path or journey, it's this is what I'm seeing right now. If you are on a hike and you are a little bit slower, not slower, I don't know, you've been talking to the chipmunks and the birds, and you're just walking on your hike a little bit slower than everybody else, but slower isn't always bad, right? At all. It doesn't help you if you haven't reached the point where you're going to start climbing the mountain and that mountain has snow on it. So you don't want to prematurely put your snow boots on when there's no snow and you're walking in sand, right? But you can have your snow boots in your backpack. And then when you get to the bottom of the mountain, you put your snow boots on, and then you can like hike the mountain. So it's like that. It's like but you have to be ready for it, or it
Okay.
doesn't do any good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I can understand how they're kicking around the idea of divine timing and divine alignment. Being
Right.
in alignment to the activation is important because you can like get Reiki attunements left and right, but if you're not ready to integrate them, or if you're not actually ready to utilize them, then it is like having your pantry of energetic tools here. And it's like, let me pull this one out now. And when it's ready to work, it will.
Right. And
Okay.
so it's also it has to be able to be sort of embodied or anchored in. And one of the intentions that I always use, I don't say it out loud, but it's that the act, because I will frequently do a lot of activations and light language and bring stuff in for groups of people, right? I don't know where everybody's at in that moment. I
Yeah.
trust that what's coming through is going to certain frequencies are going to meet people exactly where they're at, and everybody's going to get what they need, right?
Right.
um, but is that any activation that's given, titrate in accordance with their energy field that's efficient and gentle,
Yeah.
that supports them where they are. So otherwise, I could be going around and being like, activate, activate, activate. And then it's like I have all of these people now that are like not feeling great because it was too soon and all this stuff happened, or they weren't ready, and or it's too much. Like the energy's not
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So
Like, what am I going to do with this now? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. That's cool. So once one becomes attuned to it, no, that's a Reiki term, but once one is ready to have it work on them, you can use light language in pretty much anything, right?
Yeah.
Because you were telling us you draw it in water on, wait a minute, you use it in your garden. I use it while I'm walking or when I'm working with a client to help shift. A lot of times when I feel it coming through, it's one of the guides talking in an energetic way, and it seems to seep deeply, far more deeply into a person's energy and what they're trying to do than just sitting there just talking English to them. And you use it. How else? I actually wrote some sigils when I painted the office that I had. It could have been light language, but
Hmm.
I painted my symbols, and then that was way back in September of 2019. So I've been kind of using a light language without really knowing it.
And
Hey,
that
that's
is the
cool.
beautiful, that's the beautiful part of all this. That's like why I always ask people after they've been activated, do you ever, now do you remember ever saying or talking like this when you were a child? Do you remember ever, quote unquote, doodling these symbols or codes when you were little? So that's frequently a response that people have. Oh, I've been doing this, I just didn't know what it was. So
Right.
that's, again, this is why it's always awesome to be conscious of what we're doing so that we can use it consciously and with very specific intention.
Yeah.
But it's also awesome to just remind you that, like, look, have faith in yourself, trust this path that you're on and the divine timing and the divine order of it, because maybe you weren't ready to have the light language, especially if you were really heavily involved in Reiki or something, because there's, I don't know if you use the symbol Reiki with symbols in it, but a lot of people end up coming to me. They do the Reiki and it's like they're brought to the Reiki and then they become more interested in the symbols and the Reiki itself, and then they end up coming to me and I'm like, well, that's really common from my perspective, is for people to be attracted to Reiki because of the symbols that faction of Reiki uses. So they weren't attracted to the other kind of clearly I'm not a Reiki master because I don't even know
Well,
how to
I
separate these things. I know
no,
that
no,
one uses symbols and one's like fire Reiki or something.
okay. Just Reiki in a capsule, it's energy work. And
Right.
the original form of Reiki, Dr. Makao Usui, used symbols. And from there, I've seen a page that had over 1,000 different flavors of Reiki
Right.
and slices of Reiki. And so you can call it whatever. In fact, there has been some argument over being able to copyright or trademark Reiki. And there was a group that rechanneled the energy in response to somebody who said you could only get it from me. And so, thank you. I didn't agree with that thought process
Mm.
either, Mahana. And so, I'm a Reiki master, but I don't teach Reiki because in a very un-Reiki fit of peak, I tossed away my lineages. And with respect to all of these international Reiki associations, I'm not going to teach it without following their credentialing processes. I
Mm.
still use the energy. I don't remember. I don't remember all of the symbols, and I couldn't draw most of them to save my soul, and that's not what I'm worried about. I work with the energy. I have the intentions like, okay, whatever symbol I may need, cool. If it's important to whoever I'm working with, great. But you've seen me just whoosh, just throw the energy around and make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely depends on what school of Reiki what school of thought on Reiki goes. So, for me, Reiki is energy healing, and I'm good with that.
Right. So, and that's awesome, and that makes the most sense to me. But my point is, in terms of light language, is that a lot
Yeah.
of people will find themselves drawn to Reiki because of the light language, aka symbols that
Hmm.
Reiki uses, because that's what's resonating with them, but they don't necessarily get that until later, which is fine, because be a Reiki master. It's an awesome experience. You should try everything. And then once you have all of these tools, you're meant to mix and match them in a way that supports and aligns with your unique vibrational
Yep.
system. So I think
Yeah.
that's what's awesome about it. So, wait, you asked about.
What did I ask about?
Um,
We talked about how to use it, or you use
oh, right, you
how.
asked me how I use it. And so I also wanted to say, like, if light language activates light language. I mean, in a really basic level. So you don't have to come. I mean, definitely take my course, right? But
It
my
was
course
great.
is not like the only course. You can very much intend. You hold the intention. You write it down. I want my light language activated. I want my light language activated. Go around on YouTube and find something that resonates with you. Listen to it over and over again and ask that your light language be activated, right? It's very, very dependent on the like your desires to have it activated. If you have had your light language activated and you use it, you can absolutely activate other people. It feels beneficial to me, though, that you are tuned in with your beings and you ask them, like,
Yeah.
can I do this now? Right? Because it might not be, it might be in a little bit or not, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that would be my only, not like it's me, but that would be my only request. It's just to tune in with your own beings, make sure that your ego is over to the side, and ask if
Right.
you can do this. So
Right.
you don't need to take a course to do this. Ultimately, is what I'm saying.
Well, it's nice to have the guidance,
Yeah.
and I love having people around me who know about things that I want to know about and are sharing it with me in an appropriate container and all that.
Because practicing it and getting feedback and
Yeah.
working around the little voice that's like, you're not really doing this, you can't do this, what makes you sound crazy, like working through all of that in a group and in a safe space is so
Yeah.
important, because the light language course is way more than about light language. Like, we're just
Yeah.
gathering there to do that, but massive amounts of healing are taking place. And light
Hmm.
language is very much focused on understanding the power of your voice and healing these aspects of yourself where your voice has been taken away, and you reclaiming that. So everything that I do, no matter what course it is going to be all about reclaiming your sovereignty, healing these parts of yourself, and basically we are here for an ascension process. And how can we participate as light beings in that ascension process to the way that aligns with our mission or our soul purpose? The thing that we gather there for is like the bonus, even though it's not like that, but that's what it is, which is why around week 5 it starts to get challenging, because people are like like stuff is happening. Because anytime you're on a path, an ascension path, or bringing in these other energies, again, stuff gets knocked up,
Yeah.
things become chaotic when it's your own resistance to your own transformation that is being mirrored back to you. So we create all of these energies of resistance through the players that are our family, husbands, wives, kids, that are just mirroring that back to us, so that we can, a lot of it is have boundaries, and like be in the flow and be okay with things and
It's
claim our sovereignty and use our voice and
I
listen.
I think it's important that if I'm going to take the time to learn a new technique or a method or get a new tool, that I ought to see how it works for me. That way I can give, here, this feels right for you, or that feels right, as I
Mm-hmm.
incorporate it into my practice. I mean, it's like buying all the things. Do you really need all the things? Using those tools, because I don't know where I'm going with that. I think it's incumbent on us as healers to heal ourselves too.
No, yeah, we have to. So okay, so all of the ways that I use light language, I do all of the ways, all the
Yeah.
modalities. So when I say modality, I say speaking, singing, hand signing, body movement, and writing. I use them all. I will use light language on basically sheets of paper, and I will put those sheets of paper under my crystal bowls, so that way those frequencies are amplified through my crystal bowls. I will make small cards with light language written on them, and then put crystals on them, and then include those in my crystal grids. I will use verbal light language with the plants and the flowers, and then I will use written light language on the bottom of like the barrels that are outside that have plants in them, or around the trees on the concrete blocks. I have a light language next to on these big scrolls of black paper in my, what I call the dragon den, but it's like the meditation room. I have a big one in my bedroom, so it's like I'm creating these frequencies of energies, and it's like they're these pillars of light. So they're these really long black scrolls with light language on them, and I happen to be blessed to live in a space with vaulted ceilings. So it's like I'm creating these pillars of light, and then I get to sleep in them or in that. When I charge water outside, I have a Stargate outside. When I charge water in that, I will write my English intention, and then I'll write a bunch of light language on the back. And then I will put that in with the water, not inside the water, but underneath the water bottle, or tie it to the bottle with some crystal grid stuff. I will sing light language into my food and or water before drinking it or eating it. I have written light language on dissolvable pieces of paper that dissolve in water, and put a little one of those in a bathtub, so that actually dissolves into the water and becomes part of the water.
Oh.
You can do sound light language into your bathtubs. I use light language every single time that I channel, because the downloads of all of the English information, the light language comes through first, and then that's what gives me all of the big block of information that you're going to get in your star session, or that if you are in a group in front of me, that you will get. And so even sometimes, depending on the being, even if I'm in a group and it's just like a really quick thing, every once in a while, I might be muted because I'm on a panel or something, I will be doing the light language before I actually come on with the English. And a lot of times I will do the light language in written form before I give the information, like if I'm on a panel or in like some kind of group thing. So the light language for me feels and is the most normal energy at how I get the information. And then I quote unquote translate it, only I don't think about it. Then the words just come out, and then I have the words. So that's how I channel. And it doesn't mean that I can't channel without it, because I specifically joined a channeling group to channel like a normal channel without light language. And like after about 4 times, they were like, "Are you done now? Like, do you see that you can do this? But do you see that it's like takes a little bit more energy from you?" And also, the people need to hear the light language too, because it is doing something else, because it's more than just for me, it's for everyone. But then it's also for me, so it's doing multiple things.
Yeah, cool. I got caught up in that. What's my next question?
I'll use it with the animals too. Like I'll put some under Mahana's water. Oh, and on all of my water bottles, I write it on there. It's basically like infinite of what you can do with it.
Yeah, I agree. It's just one of those things. It's becoming aware that you can use it, and that there is no limit to how you can use it. Because I'll vocalize while I'm taking a walk, or I noticed, what was it? I was just trying to focus on doing some work, and the light language came through. And for me, it had a very Broadway kind of feel to it, almost my clown music stuff. But it was like, okay, this is very empowering and very invigorating. And I tried to record it, and it didn't record. I was going to post it to the group page, and I got very distinctly, this isn't for them. This is for you. And so not every bit of light language, like Reiki energy, when you bring in Reiki energy, it comes through and it works on you. And then if it's supposed to work on somebody else, it comes out. And I feel that's the same thing with light language. If it comes through for me on my walk, I go on the inner urban trail. So if there's beneficial effects that fall out into the path itself, or whatever beings are there, that's great.
Yeah, that's huge. That's, to me, that's what you're doing when you're doing that. Like, you're getting something from it, but you're also offering that frequency to any of the beings, the fae, the whoever, the plants, the Mother Earth, that can receive that and be beneficial from it. So, this is another thing about light language. I forgot to say this. It's actually kind of really important. I don't even know if I said this during the whole class, and it's because it seems obvious to me. So earlier when I said, where do you think your thought forms, and where do you think these things, like when you say not nice things to yourself, those don't just dissipate into the ether, they become a part of the field of this planet that then becomes accessible to other people. Clearly, it's better to get these things out if you're like aware of it, right? But just continuing to repeat these yuck patterns to yourself, it doesn't just go away. So when you use light language, it exponentially grows. So it doesn't just go and then dissipate. It goes and it can grow and it can grow. So it's like when you're using that, it's beneficial. So if you are like, you identify as being a Templar or quote unquote grid worker, they're not the same thing, but they're kind of the same thing. So if you identify as being one of those grid workers or something like that, when you use your light language, like when you're walking around to find the place that your beings want you to go to bring this energy into the earth, you can also use light language because it goes out and it will help and find anybody that needs that. So if you've ever experienced being out somewhere and paths or anyone and you like hit this ball of energy or somebody else's thought form, and you feel that, and you don't have to take that on, right? But the
Right.
opposite of that is if somebody were like, imagine if somebody went through the grocery store and they were like light languaging up and all down all of the aisles. Like your grocery store experience, if you're an empath and you're tuned into those frequencies, would be totally different than the other one where somebody might have just lost somebody. And so there's no judgment, right? And I'm
Right.
using this specific case because that's what happened to me. I was in the grocery store and somebody just lost a child, and I'm seeing all these things, but then I caught myself and I was like, this is not mine, this is somebody else's thought forms. And I just asked the beings to come in and lift and enlighten, heal and forgive, and lift that. And if it served any kind of purpose, to go find that person and just send love their way, right? But
Yeah.
I don't have to spend any physical energy doing that. I just have to let it go. So the opposite of that would be if somebody went into the grocery store before me, light language, oh, all over the place, and it was amazing and beautiful. I would go in there and have a completely different experience. And so that's what happens is you're creating these forms of fields of energy that can just sort of grow and glow and like move through our environment and be very, very beneficial and keep going. Like they don't, energy is like, especially in these torus fields, when it's like not distorted and functioning really well, they're like infinite in their ability to move like through time and space. It's pretty fascinating, which is what we are, right? So
Right.
that doesn't die.
Okay. Can light language negate or remove any negative thought forms? I know it expands, but does that negative thought form get, say, like overtopped or
So it's like when you, so this is, I will relate this to something else that's useful.
no, I'm digging the grocery store metaphor. I'm
Okay.
digging that. But I
Well,
mean,
when,
can that sadness that's in, say, the melon section, can that be healed
yeah,
by light
sure.
language?
I mean, I
Okay.
asked the beings to come in and do it because it was a pretty big. Somebody had lost a child, and they were in those thoughts when they happened to be walking down the aisle, and I happened to come. So just like beings, I think I
Okay.
joked about this earlier. Cleanup on metaphysical cleanup on aisle 4 or whatever. Like please, and then the
Okay.
beings will come in and do it. I don't need to stop and have a ceremony and do all of this stuff in that moment. My
Okay.
job is to be aware of it, recognize that it's not mine, and ask that it be healed and helped and move on to go get my oat milk or whatever and say thank you, and then be really grateful that I have this ability to perceive that. We all do, but like actually I'm in it all of the time and I don't mind it. I like it. That's why I'm here, right? Yes, light. So my explanation is, well, I don't guess we shouldn't get into all of that. But anything that enters the vibration of a higher vibration will dissolve
Okay.
into it because it cannot exist into that vibration. So it doesn't disappear, but it becomes lifted and enlightened, healed and forgiven, and then
Okay.
becomes a part of that field and doesn't distort or stop that down because it's such a small part of that field. So I use light language all the time to adjust and to shift energy in a space that I'm in. If I'm
Okay.
in a doctor's office or the hospital or whatever, I will ask. I'm not using my brain and I'm like, move that over there, move this over there. That's not the type of sort of grid worker type person that I'm in. I trust that the beings are able to adjust things in a way that serves the whole of where I am. So
Okay.
I bring in the energy and I ask that something like be shifted because I feel something is very out of balance, and I start with myself first and then let that go out. Because what if it's me bringing the imbalance into the space? It's not the space bringing the imbalance to me,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, I get that now.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate the time that you took to clarify that for me because
Yeah.
yeah, I was going to get really wrapped around that one. So, what else? It fits into anything. We can use it in whatever. We set our intention. You know, what? What are you
It
laughing
fits
at?
into anything and you can use it into whatever. That's awesome. No, it's like we could have saved ourselves all time and just said that in the beginning. Okay, have a nice day in love and light.
It's the journey, Ashley. It's so fun. Going and tripping around. Okay. Well, I'm really great. I'm happy about this. I don't think this is the whole course in a nutshell, but it's certainly a lot of the theory behind it that helps, well, certainly explain it to me a lot more. So I am so grateful for you taking your time out of your day to talk to me about this. So your next thing is connecting with star families, star lineages. No, the galactic.
No, it's called it's the 10-week galactic guided intensive called Meet the Galactics. And so over the course of 10 weeks, different galactic beings are going to be coming in, bringing us activations, transmissions, and guidance, ascension guidance, etc. over these 10 weeks. They will be different, so you have the opportunity to connect with different beings in a safe place. So this you're just curious, or you're one of those people that like, I really want to connect to the galactics, but it's scary. I understand that. This is a very safe environment because I will be bringing the energies through me in the group so that you can experience that and feel them and have your experience with that texture and quality of those different star nations that are coming through. And I'm really excited because they're excited and we're all excited. It starts July 21st.
And they can go to galacticashley.com to register.
Yep, and yeah, and Susie has an affiliate link
Oh,
and a
yes, I do.
code so that you can all have $25 off of registration,
And
and then she gets a little galactic perk too.
a little galactic pet on the back there.
Hmm.
Yes. And you have payment plans available.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
1, 2, 3, and 4 month payment plans or 4-time payment plans. So you can break it up as much or as little as you need between those.
And I
Hmm.
trust me, after the light language intensive, I can attest to the fact that it is a very safe space in which to explore these. There are so many times I'm the big fish in a little pond, and this was, I'm just here to figure this out. There was those moments where I thought, oh, I don't know, man, if I can do this, and we continue to support each other even after this class,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
that's
there's been a lot of people that have connected and made like this is a way I think don't this is not an expectation that anyone can have, but this is simply an observation for my part after doing a number of these is that people have found their soul families, and
yeah,
what I can see is they have made like sometimes lifelong friends like through this. So if you are like, I've been calling my soul family or been asking for my soul family to come in, what I mean by soul family are like beings that vibrate with you and support you and are on a similar type of path that you are, that you've had other lifetimes with, that you just know them when you know them.
yeah, and there is a deep
Yeah.
connection. People, I
Mhm.
obviously, because it's happening on a virtual platform, there are people I met, what, I think Crystal's in what, Kentucky or Tennessee? Not that I get the
Mhm.
states confused, but and then those of them are in Portland or someplace else, and it appeals to a wide spectrum of wonderful people who are heart-centered, and it was so fun. And you brought in speakers, and we got to
Yeah.
connect on different levels.
This next course actually has 6 different speakers, and each one of them is a channel or an author. We have a galactic astrologist who invented this whole different type of galactic astrology
Ooh.
that he does, and he's from New Zealand, and he's going to be coming in. So the guest speakers will be coming in on specific Sundays. They work very intensely with galactic energies, so that way you can experience other channels besides me
Yeah.
bringing in these energies. And I believe that we're in a community and we're here to create community and collaboration. So if a lot of these courses have practitioners like Susie, like half are practitioners and half are not, and everyone is in a different place because it doesn't matter where you are. You only have to have the willingness to be there and to open yourself to discover what's going to come up, because I bring in stuff for you to work with, and I'm not one of those people. There's not one way to do something. It's the one way, or the right way is the way that is your way, because we are all wired so differently, and it's so important that you understand how you're wired and how you perceive and receive information. So everything is set up in that kind of way for you to discover and feel empowered and know how you work and how you function here, and how you're constantly growing and expanding so that you can integrate all these things. And then a lot of people go and then they're metaphysical practitioners, or they've added something, this whole other level of something into their work, and it's fascinating, and I get to learn too. So
Yeah, I thought it was so fun. So I encourage anyone who's open to the galactics, look it up. Go find it. We'll have links all over the place. Yeah, I guess that's good. I'm very happy with this. We got a lot of great information. I'm hoping that people open up to the possibilities of light language. Yeah, go explore the internet and see what you can find. But if you're interested in talking to Galactic Ashley or me about light language, and there are other practitioners from our class and all kinds of folks, all kinds of practitioners use light language. Find the one that resonates with you
yeah.
and then use it. You don't have to practice it. That's what I like. I don't have to practice. I can just go out and do that. What was it you called it once? It was that cartoon rooster getting ready to sing opera. That was one sound I made, and you just
Oh, right. Well, I mean, so I love what you just said right there, because you do have to practice it, but you don't have to practice it in the way that you think practicing it is. You have to use it,
yeah,
and that is how you practice it, but it's not something that you refine, because through your use of it, it becomes more refined, and you become more refined, and then you expand some more and you expand some more. But it's not about practicing for perfection. You're practicing, and that allows you to just be.
yeah. I feel more comfortable with it. I start
Yeah,
exploring other sounds
yeah,
because, there's M and N are not the only sounds to be made. There are other ones. And so I played with that, asking who's coming in, who wants to come in. And yeah, it's really opened a whole lot of doors for me. So thank you for your part in that, Galactic Ashley. I
yeah.
really
I'm
appreciate it.
excited.
Okay, I can emphasize your information again. It's galacticashley.com. She's got registration open for her Meet the Galactics that starts
Mhm,
July 21st.
mhm.
Are you going to be doing any in-person or online events?
Yes.
I guess they can check your website to get that information. How
Yes,
about? Yeah.
yes, you can. There'll be and I also don't know when this is coming out exactly, but yeah. But the main thing is the Meet the Galactics, and then I have a. This is good. I have a YouTube channel. If you just look for Galactic Ashley, there is basically starting tomorrow. So whenever you hear this, it will be available. But
Woohoo!
most of my energy is going to be involved with creating transmissions, and just basically doing a lot of channeling and bringing in a lot of information, which is then free and available to you.
Great. That's great. I did not know that. So I am excited for that. Thanks again, Galactic Ashley. I really appreciate it. And before we start off on another branch of what other marketing we could do, I'm going to say
Yeah.
until next time, blessings.